Well, hello there. A very good morning once again after a couple of minutes of break from AM Live. This is your world. Holding brief for Willie Lubembe. My name is Zainab Ismail as we tackle a number of issues. Today I want to focus on the progress we've made as a country in terms of eradicating FGM in our communities. How far are we and what are some of the issues that are still cropping up from this particular matter? And I'll be taking a look at the Kenya Demographic and Health Survey, which has also released its numbers. We're going to give you the numbers there, the statistics when it comes to FGM. But in studio this morning, I'm not alone to converse with us. I am with Sadia Hussein. A very good morning to you, who is Executive Director, Brighter Society Initiative, who's also an anti-FGM advocate as well as an FGM survivor. I am also joined by Ustadh Abdullahi Haji Gudo, who is the Chair of the Council of Imams and Preachers at Tana River County. A very good morning to you as well. And also joining us is Millicent Ondiek, who's a Gender and Social Development Officer based in Tana River as well. A very good morning. Good to see you and welcome to the program this morning. Well, we begin with the survey that was conducted and was released just a couple of days ago. And this is the 2022 Kenya Demographic and Health Survey, which says that the country has 15% prevalence, meaning 15 in 100 girls and women aged between 15 and 49 have undergone the cut. So this number is still maybe slightly high, but notwithstanding, we've seen remarkable progress in terms of dealing and trying to combat FGM among our communities. Sadia, when you're looking at that, are we on the right track?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yes, my name is Sadia Hussein, and the Executive Director of Brighter Society Initiative and Frontline Ending FGM. I am a FGM survivor and a mother of 3 daughters. Yes, that's a real progress, but when you look at the entire country, it's a big progress. But now going down, narrowing it down to counties and communities, it's way higher, because we are talking about communities practicing FGM as high as 94% within the Somali community, talking about the Samburu, the Maasai. So within the communities, the prevalence is very high. But when you come to the national, because all the other counties that do not practice FGM are also part of the data. So you will find, yeah, but there is still progress, because we had a drop of 6% from 21%. Yeah.
From 21% to 15%, yes, so that's quite promising.
A drop of 6%.
Right.
So that's a real progress, and credit goes to all the stakeholders, especially the frontline ending FGM, the people at the grassroots, the FGM survivors who are very vocal, and also the religious leaders who are helping us to end FGM.
So you're saying there's still a huge prevalence of FGM that is happening among the communities, especially certain communities. You talk about, for example, Tana River counties, Muslim majority counties. And then there's this association of FGM to tradition and mostly religion, which you feel like there is a bit of misinformation on the same.
Absolutely. So this is what happens. A lot of communities, let's say across Africa, are practicing FGM as a cultural or as a tradition. But now, I really tend to challenge myself and others, because when we talk about culture, culture is something that should give you identity. But FGM is done to a hidden genitalia. So it doesn't give you identity in any way. No one can tell whether I went through FGM or not unless I tell my story. The same way with the religion. We have our religious leader here who has been helping us, and who has been very vocal on FGM and Islamic perspective.
Right.
I come from Tana River County. And in Tana River County, we have the Pokomo community who are 100% Muslim, and they do not practice FGM at all. And they are the imams in our mosques, and maybe he will enlighten us on FGM and religion.
Right.
But I want to take my stand that FGM is 1, torture. Number 2, FGM is a sexual assault against women and girls. Reason being, the moment you are touching a child, an innocent girl's genitalia, to cut for no medical reason, then of course you're doing sexual assault. Why are you touching? Again, they are doing it to reduce the urge of women and girls. Who gave you the permission to control someone's sexuality?
Okay. And we'll come back to some of those issues and the impact, especially psychological impact and the physical impact really FGM has on girls, and especially young girls. But Sheikh, there's this notion that, first of all, FGM is related to Islam, you know, because we see, we're told that, you know, majority of the Muslim girls are told they must go through FGM. But really, is that the truth?
You know, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. FGM is a universal practice, especially in northern Kenya, among Somalis, Borana, Orma, Wardei communities. And most of them believe that it's a religious requirement.
Right.
We know very well that's a cultural practice, but they believe that it's a religious requirements. But as Muslims, we normally drive our issues from the sources of Sharia. So when you want to do anything, you must have the information from the sources of Sharia. The sources of Sharia in Islam are four: Quran, Hadith, Ijma, and Qiyas. So in order to implement whatever you want to do, for example, this female genital mutilation, and maybe these communities are believing that this is from the cultural practice or the Islamic requirements. So we must have a verse from the Quran or Hadith from the Prophet that supports this act. But actually, I can say it's misinformation, misunderstanding, misconception against Islam. Islam does not support this act. Islam totally does not support that.
So it is not a religious issue. It's a traditional, a cultural issue that has been misrepresented.
Those who are supporting, maybe they are relying on inauthentic hadiths of the Prophet. So we can mention those hadiths later. But all these hadith, most of the Muslim scholars, they are saying that these are weak and inauthentic traditions of the Prophet.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And Millicent, when you're looking at the issue of, you know, the social development of areas like Tana River, like, you know, Sadia has mentioned, where do you think the problem lies? Why has it been so hard to completely eradicate FGM? Is it a mindset issue? Is it, you know, just something that is so deeply ingrained in the communities? Where do you think the problem lies?
Okay, if you look at FGM in Tana River, is practiced among 5 communities, of which 2, the communities are 7. The communities that practice FGM are 5, leaving the Pokomo aside and the Bajun aside.
Right.
And if you look at it, it's a retrogressive cultural practice, a harmful one, that affects the women. And you'll find that there is no any development that can take place without women. And in this, I mean, the illiteracy rate is high. You will find these girls in school at a given age. From 7 years, you'll start missing these girls. They'll drop out of school, and when they drop out of school, FGM is done on them, and they're ready. They can be married off any time. And that's why you'll find that the social development aspect is not actually, impact is never felt, especially on women.
So do you feel like then poverty is a contributor to an increase or a continuation of this practice among such communities?
The poverty also contributes in a way or the other, because now if there is no education, adequate education, you'll find that these girls will not get employment. They will end up becoming illiterate women, housewife women who don't have skills, who are just there because they don't have control of their bodies, because women are there to make decisions on them. So in a way or the other, you will find that poverty will increase. Like in Tana River, poverty rate is at 63%. 63% whereby retrogressive culture contributes towards that. Yeah.
All right. Sadia, I mean, she talks about 63% poverty rate in Tana River, and it is different rates among different communities in different counties that still practice FGM. Do you also believe that lack of awareness, lack of proper education, poverty levels are a contributor? They increase the practices, FGM specifically, among such communities?
Yes, indeed. There is a cycle within the poverty that contributes to all this, and the root cause is actually FGM among the women and girls. Reason being, FGM is a chain. That chain, FGM, is a direct link to child marriage. So when a girl is married at a tender age, you expect she will drop out of school, right? So now, when she drops out of school, what happens? Her entire dream is shattered.
Right.
And she will have to be dependent on the husband. So now that young girl who missed school becomes now a young mother. The father now needs kettles. Where did he get from? They will give birth to another girl. So that girl again will have to go through FGM for them to marry it off to another man for them to get cows. So the cycle continues. I hope you getting me.
Okay, and you're telling me this is actually happening in modern Kenya?
Of course. So now, this is the issue. You will find that most of the time, during droughts actually, a lot of communities lost their livestock, not just in Tana River, but it was across the entire country. So what happened? Many girls were mutilated. In fact, for the first time, even Wajir recorded high rates of teen pregnancy. And the community were wondering, are our girls getting pregnant out of wedlock? No. These were young girls subjected to FGM, married off, and got pregnant at a tender age. So, teenage pregnancy does not mean out of wedlock. It's the data that is captured for all the girls who are teens and they are pregnant, young
and they've been
mothers.
married off by their parents.
Exactly.
And this is happening under the watch of authorities, under the watch of organizations, and those people, stakeholders who are involved in taking care of these young girls.
Yes, exactly. And that's why in Tana River County, the Sheikh was present and Millicent was present. We did an End FGM boot camp, and the theme was End the Blame Game. Because the government blames the community. The community blames the religious leaders because they say FGM is a religious requirement, child marriage is allowed. The Prophet married a 9-year-old Aisha and all that. He will demystify all those myths and misconceptions. Now they blame the religious leaders. The religious leaders now again blame the traditional leaders. The kings of those communities, the 5 communities, were also present. The duty bearers now also are blamed because they are not holding accountable the perpetrators. Maybe they are not taking them to jail and all that. So to end that blame game, we also brought the young people, because mothers, again, the survivors blame, if I don't cut my girl, no one will marry her. So we did that End FGM boot camp. Actually, we end the blame game. What is our action to end FGM?
Has there been any impact?
Yes, there was. The Sheikh here was there, Millicent was there. We had the county commissioner present. We had the minister, the CEC for gender and education. There was a lot of commitments. We even had political leaders. Our senator joined us. It was like a session. Even political leaders were actually taking the responsibility and commitment to say that we must take an action. Our girls must remain as created by God, and we have to achieve 0 FGM in Tana River.
All right.
So, but now the action has to be consistent and repeatedly, because once you do the boot camp, you have to do actions. Because if you leave it there, then the blame game still continues. That's why now we are doing action to ensure that we continue speaking against FGM and do what we call massive campaigns within our respective areas to ensure that survivors stand up and say, it happened to me, not to my daughter.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. And Sheikh, when you're looking at that, I mean, it's quite hard to sort of change the culture of a community, a culture that has been there for decades on. I mean, how then do we move into addressing this in a more sensitive way and respectful of this? It's a practice that has been held by a community for long, and they feel this is right. How do you begin changing the mindset of such people?
Yes. This practice, mostly our community, they were practicing before many decades, isn't it? But as religious leaders, we involve them using our divine scriptures. Because sometimes you cannot change them until you bring verses, traditions of the Prophet, how Muslims, how Islam guides. Those are some of the areas we use verses, hadith of the Prophet, at least to convene them. It is even hard because most of them also are accepting that this act is a religious requirement. But we are using those verses. For example, there is a verse which says, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ, and do not harm yourself, do not kill yourself. There are many verses in the Quran. So politely, in a safe way, in a good way, we are involving the leaders. Because when you want to change this narrative, because this notion also has been linked to Islam. In order to delink it from Islam, we must use a way where we can find how we can reach those, especially the leaders, the cultural leaders, those who are also supporting this act. So we'll use the verse because we have gatherings in mosques. We don't pay them.
Does it work?
Yeah, it works. It works.
Have you
It really
seen a
works.
positive change
Yes,
in
there are
terms
positive
of
changes because
perception, in terms of
yes.
how they respond to such,
You know, as Muslim and as leaders, what we want is these girls to be free.
Correct.
These girls to be safe. So as we are continuing teaching and disseminating this information, we discovered that now most of the Muslims, they are not cutting their girls. They are safe. So this is one of the things we are saying, that at least the prevalences in Tanariva, I think, has gone down.
Right.
Yes.
When you talk about 15 nationally, but in Tanariva on Northern, it's 94%, from 98 to 94%, isn't it? Now the worst thing is in Tanariva.
But that's still quite high.
It's quite high, yes, in our
Right.
community, yes.
Right.
Very
It's quite
high.
high. But we believe that now there are several girls who are safe. And what we are saying, that there are types of FGM. In our area, our communities are engaging in the worst type, the worst type, which is
Right.
called infibulation. So in order now to bring them out of that type, we must educate them. At least in Islam, those who are saying is an Islamic act, isn't it? It talks about clitoridectomy, cutting the clitoris slightly. That is what others are saying Islam is talking about.
Right.
But now the act, it's infibulation, the worst type of FGM. So our role is at least to educate them. And we believe that now there are few girls who are safe. And we are disseminating this information where we say that our girls are born safe, let them grow safe. So I think it will take us gradual movement, isn't
Right.
it? But we can achieve.
Okay.
Yes.
And Millicent, do you feel like then there are safe spaces that are available for girls who feel like, I'm being forced into this. My mother tells me, my grandmother tells me, after school or during the holiday, that I must go through this. Are there safe spaces for such girls to go to run to feel, they're protected?
Yes, first I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge our governor, His Excellency, Major Retired Gadai Godana. His Excellency has done a lot on that. Looking at it, there was no department for gender and social protection. He brought in this department, and the department, under the good leadership that we have in Tanariva, is trying to fight and protect all sort of gender-based violence, FGM being one of it. There is an action plan the county action plan for FGM. That at least gives a guide on how to fight the FGM and deal with perpetrators who are dealing with the FGM, especially the cutters. On the other end, there are safe houses, like the safe houses that we rescue center. This time round, I thank him because there is allocation for rescue center, whereby we can have our girls being kept. And we have also organizations that have safe houses that we are keeping our girls. And we are protecting these girls, giving them space and preventing them from this harmful culture.
Okay. All right. And I want us to take a break on that particular note. So you can converse with us. Please talk to us. The hashtag we're using is Your World NTV at NTV Kenya at Zainab Ismail. But before that, listen to this. Children all around Kenya rely on water from unsafe sources. So Colgate is asking you to help change this. Just a little water can make a big difference. Now, for every pack of Colgate you buy exclusively at Naivas, you help them build about 30 water wells that will provide clean water for 120 to 800 Kenyans, which will then give a helping hand. Shop at, they're asking you to shop at your nearest Naivas store or online at naivas.co.ke. For more information about the campaign, you can also visit their website at and also Colgate Kenya's Facebook page, or that website, which is Colgate.com, and of course terms and conditions do apply. Let's take that quick break. We're going to be back in a short while.
As a mother, I have to do my duties in the house. It forces me to send her to the river because I have no alternative.
Pia ora ok ber, ler be doko ler. Otuo nikech pia ora. Otuo ok odhi skul, japuonj chunye chandore.
If children had water close by, they won't be sick, they won't be distracted because the water is clean.
When you've gotta go, go for Neptune, the softer two-ply tissue paper, available in plain white and colored.
In my shirt, a toss of lavender and a world of freshness.
Wash your clothes with Toss Lavender to leave your clothes with a lasting, irresistible freshness.
As a mother, I have to do my duties in the house. It forces me to send her to the river because I have no alternative.
Pia ora ok ber, ler be doko ler. Otuo nikech pia ora. Otuo ok odhi skul, japuonj chunye chandore.
If children had water close by, they won't be sick, they won't be distracted because the water is clean.
there's something happening right now around gender equity, around ending period shame, around ending period poverty, that I think is a really important moment in history right now. COVID was very hard for pads, just by the way, because the top layer of pads is used for masks. The costs went up dramatically, and that's one of the reasons that pads became more expensive. They still don't have any value-added tax, so that's helpful. But what's important is the actual pack cost and then the number of pads that you're using per month. Because we know that the economy is hitting everybody, but it's hitting low-income people the worst. This moment in time and this Changing Cycles program is going to be something that we'll look back on and say this was an important moment in this moment in time.
From now on, Officer Polo will take over.
What are you doing? You will compromise this.
Situ Kange, naitwa Jemo. Mimi ni TJ. Madam, leta pesa, usinilete kisirani.
Siwezi kupea.
Ni nini? Niambia mzae tamletea do yake.
Maze mimi sina noma, I come in peace, brother.
As a mother, I have to do my duties in the house. It forces me to send her to the river because I have no alternative.
Pia ora ok ber, ler bedo ko ler. Otuo nikech pia ora. Otuo ok odhi skul, japuonj chunye chandore.
If children had water close by, they won't be sick, they won't be distracted because the water is clean.
You are watching Your World in association with Colgate.
All right, welcome back to the program as we continue our conversation on FGM and the strides we've made as a country in ending FGM, but still a lot more that needs to be done, and that's why we continue having this conversation. But before I continue with my panelists, like I had said before we took a break, what if there's a reason that your smile can help those next to you? Apparently, Colgate is helping to provide clean drinking water so that children can have a bright future by staying in school. Now, for every pack of Colgate that you buy at your nearest Naivas store over the next 2 months, you're helping to build 30 water wells that will provide clean water for 120,000 people. Now, that is something to smile about. You can visit the Colgate Kenya Facebook page or visit the website on wellboring.colgate.com for more information with terms and conditions that do apply. All right, let's continue with the conversation now. Now, Sadia, you talk about a lot of impact that FGM has on young girls especially, but also not just young girls. Now, when we're looking at the trends, back then, it was just as easy as saying, look, it's over the holiday, we're going to have this practice happen during the school holiday, and perhaps, you know, the girls will go back to school or something like that will happen. But because of the strict measures, the decriminalization of the criminalization of FGM, that has been difficult, but still the practice continues. Where do you think the gap lies? Is it the fact that it is so well hidden, or we don't have enough measures in terms of lack of implementation by authority, or where do you think the problem lies with that?
Okay, so as I told you earlier, for us, we don't want to blame anybody anymore because we want to end the blame game.
Right.
Let everyone take a responsibility where they stand. including the media. Media plays key role. In fact, today this came at a time, the best time actually, when we are going, in the afternoon, we are going to discuss the role of media to accelerate ending of FGM.
Right.
So everyone has a role to play. For instance, the religious scholars have a role to play to delink FGM from religion and demystify the community myths and misconceptions. For us, the survivors now, we also have a role to play. And coming to your question, I want to say that we really need to empower survivors and girls, the girls who have not gone through FGM yet. Because not every community cuts young girls. There are those who cut teenage girls. So if we really mentor them at a younger age, we will be laying a strong foundation for them. And that's why I wrote this book called A New Dawn for Children. This book, we always give to girls so that they can read, and also we also give to boys as well, because it talks about FGM, that chain of FGM, child marriage. And you know, for child marriage, that is child marriage means this girl will be defiled. All right, so it talks about defilements, it talks about teenage pregnancy, it talks about the importance of education. So for us, there are a lot of poems here. So we use them to empower. Even now we are going to Kajiado to do mentorship for girls. Why are we doing that? Because Zainab, I believe we have a right to our body. We should decide what happens to our body. Last week someone was asking me, what if we just engage the men and they just declare and say, we are ready to marry and cut girls and we don't need FGM anymore. And I said, if you don't empower this girl, what if 2 years later, then the same men come and reverse their decision? So let us empower women and girls in as much as we want to engage the men, in as much as we want to use...
Which is paramount, by the way. So you have male engagement, but at the end of it all, you're saying there must be proper empowerment of girls and women.
Yes, in as much as we are using all other approaches to end FGM, let us not forget this primary person. Our primary subject and goal should be to empower these women and girls so that they can say no to FGM. They can actually defend their body. Because imagine someone else deciding on what should happen to my body and what shouldn't happen to my body. That's not fair. That's in fact even gender equality. So FGM is an SRHR issue, sexual reproductive and health rights, because it has long-time complications, health effects. FGM again is gender inequality, because we are talking about mutilating these girls because we want to curb their libido. But now the question is, this girl has the capacity of getting pregnant. Once she gets pregnant, a whole year she will not get pregnant again. But this young man who is getting out of this out every day can impregnate 10 girls a day. No one is saying let's avoid this man from impregnating girls. But you want to again, you know, victimize the victim. You get what I mean? So there is a lot of issues that are going around the girl child, and we really need to empower them so that they can defend their own rights. Then when we go to other secondary people, let them understand that these girls have rights, survivors have rights. Let us not further stigmatize the survivors, because we really need to rebrand our message.
Do you think survivors have been stigmatized? Because look, you rescue girls who perhaps unfortunately have already undergone FGM, or who are in the process of going to go through FGM, but you've rescued them. Do you think there are proper mechanisms that are in place to ensure that their psychological well-being has been taken care of? Yes, physically you've rescued them from there. Unfortunately, for those who've already undergone that, there's no reversal of such kind of, you know, thing that has been done on them. But do you think there is a place where they're able to be taken good care of in terms of, let's say the family isn't quite responsive to these changes that you're asking them to go about?
Thank you so much, Zainab. And I want to thank NTV actually for giving me this opportunity to talk on behalf of all those survivors. Let me tell you this. I agree with you absolutely 100% when you say, are they given psychosocial support, all these things. Survivors of FGM get double trauma, double stigma. Reason being, when you are at the community level, you are running to be cut. Why? Because you are running from the pressure and stigma that you are not cut. Once you go through the cut, now you are exposed to the world. And today, even those who are campaigning against FGM, do you know the first messages they use against the survivors? You know, the women and girls who have been cut are frigid, sexually they are not pleasurable, they are all this. So now you ask yourself, this innocent girl who went through FGM without her consent, at a 10-year-old, growing up, having a future of maybe getting married someday, what will happen to her before she even reaches the age of understanding what has happened to her body? They are already growing with that trauma and living with that trauma that they are sexually inactive. You get what I mean? Again, the community is doing FGM to curb the promiscuity, to curb that urge of these women and girls. But the question is, can you reduce the urge by cutting genitals? No, right? Because the urge comes from the mind.
So is it a question of control then?
Yes, they want to control women
desire.
and girls, their sexuality.
Okay.
But the question is, how can you control? It's like saying, I want to remove all your teeth so that you don't feel hungry.
Okay.
Definitely you will feel hungry.
So there is irony over there.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
why I written this book.
Right.
The hidden scars of female genital mutilation. These scars that are hidden are also scars, mental scars. We have mental scars because FGM is irreversible, as you said. Once it happens, it happened. So now, how do we ensure the well-being of these survivors, the health, mental health of these survivors is intact before you even say, let's end FGM? Thank you.
All right. And Shaq, when you're looking at that, I mean, it's quite difficult to deal with a survivor who's going through two levels of stigmatization or victimization. You have that level of them being physically assaulted, you know, and then you have that level of them being looked down upon because they're lacking in nature, or so to say. So that's quite unfortunate.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. That's why we are insisting that at least our girls to be safe. For example, you know, these people are conducting or are practicing this act in their mental, their myth. They are thinking that this is an honorable act for women. That's what they are thinking. We practice this. Women are
so there's that thinking behind it, that this is actually
honorable act.
a good thing.
Yes, it's a good thing. That's what they're thinking.
That we must cut this sexual urge of these young girls.
Yes.
But at the end of it all,
it's an honorable act.
Right.
That's why also they are discrediting those who didn't went through this practice. So in that case,
so the women who have not gone through FGM,
also they are victimized.
That looked at upon as rebels.
Yes.
Right.
Rebels also they are victimized. That's why even a young girl who is going to school, most of the areas that maybe if she's found that she didn't went through the act, maybe there is the issue of stigmatization in schools, isn't it? Where now they have been looked down. Another issue is if you want to take away these notions, these misconceptions, you must sensitize our communities. And thanks to Sadia and BSI, because we are carrying out these sensitizations. And we are there to save our young girls. The issue is not stigma only. The issue is harmful to harm to their body, because harming the value and the sanctity of human body. In Islam, sanctity of human body is there.
Right.
And also, as well as the right of human being, as the right of those young girls.
So that infringes on their rights, as human beings.
Yes.
Right.
Health to their body, their health, because there are these physical consequences when it comes to cutting, isn't it?
Right.
So Islam forbids
injuring the body,
injuring the body.
All right.
Because if you cut any organ, you must understand that there is natural functions of this particular organ. And in Quran, Allah has said, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. We have created human being in the best way, isn't it? So we are not allowed to alter God's creation.
Right.
altering God's creation is totally prohibited in Islam.
Right.
And it is forbidden. So any person who takes this action must understand that, does Islam allow this? Because Islam does not allow any alteration
Okay.
of God's creation.
All right.
And when we are conducting this, especially as I said that whatever our girls are going through is the worst type, isn't it? That shows that they are cutting many organs, not even a single organ. You can ask Sadia because she's among those who went through this act. So cutting all those organs, it's totally against Islamic religion.
But there's something you mentioned before I get to Millicent.
Yes.
You talked about peer pressure.
Peer pressure, yes.
Like if I am in school and my fellow peers have, perhaps you're a teenager, and they've gone through this because they've been forced to go through this, you feel like an outsider. But there's been a bit of a shift then. Maybe you can correct me and also Sadi if I'm wrong. There's a shift where this is now moving away from also just young girls to married women who say, I am married, and because all the other married women in this area are also have undergone the cut, I feel I'm an outlier. So I have to. So this goes to more married women actually going through FGM right now. Is that something that is happening?
No, that's not happening because since we are carrying out the sensitization, since BSI, religious leaders, and even the ministry are carrying out the sensitization, what we are trying to do now is to go to the level of the school children to educate them even.
So you're giving the information to these young girls. But do you feel that when then it comes to them being outside that system, they're in their own homes, they have the right, they're adults, they have the rights to do anything they want. Does that change?
You know, religiously, if you teach them that when you engage in this act, it's forbidden.
Okay.
So we are calculating this issue of believing in the religion, where cutting any organ of the body is not allowed.
All right. Let's hear from Millicent on the same. And I mean, do you feel like there's a shift in terms of the trends that we've seen on FGM, where you have that, less younger girls going through FGM and now sort of a shift into more adult women or younger women married in their own homes who feel like, look, I feel like I should have done this when I was younger, but now I am at free will to do this. I don't know if I am wrong.
Okay, you see, as my colleagues have said here, you find that FGM, if there are girls who undergo FGM and those that are not done FGM, there is a bit of discrimination if you go to school. And they are termed to be unclean. So the peers will keep them aside. And you'll find that in women, if a woman is not done FGM, the dowry for these women determines if the woman is done FGM, it will go up, it will go high. And if you are not done FGM, marriage becomes a problem to these women. You don't undergo FGM, you will wait, and maybe marriage will be, FGM will be a barrier for your marriage if you don't undergo FGM.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have final remarks. Actually, let me begin with you, Millicent. Just very quickly, your final remarks on perhaps what can be done.
Okay, we can put strategies in place that can assist. I first also would like to thank BCI because there are strategies that they've put in place that we are seeing it reduce. We've brought about different groups, the youths that most of the time you'll find that they are the ones who are going to marry these girls. So we have the youths advocating. My sister, they are advocating for their sisters. They are saying no to FGM. We've brought different groups in place so that engagement can be done with the religion part of it, the youth part of it, the girls part of it, the women, the cutters. So I think if we go that way, we are going to win this battle of FGM.
All right.
Yeah.
Sheikh, your final remarks on this, and perhaps in terms of a religious perspective, how can religious then institutions and leaders like yourself continue working together with traditional leaders who still advocate for FGM on trying to, make progress and improve, because 94% within such communities is still quite high?
Mine is just to ask the religious leaders, because religious leaders are the crucial, they play a crucial and a catalytic role in strengthening and also sensitizing the communities on this. And also, religious scholars command respect in the community. I think you know very well. And also they influence their communities. So as religious leaders, we need to speak, we need to stand, and also to defend these young girls.
All right.
Lastly, I need to also give you 3 things. 1, there is no evidence in Islamic law that necessitates this act. Secondly, the authentic prophetic hadith says that do not harm yourself or harm others.
Okay.
Lastly, but not least, hadith ordaining female circumcision. All these hadith are weak and inauthentic. So mine is to say that as Muslim scholars, since we are respected and we are also playing a crucial role in the community, we need to stand and also defend our young girls.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Sadia, your final remarks, even as you continue to undertake this campaign, what do you think needs to be done in terms of collaboration to work towards really achieving a zero tolerance to FGM? I know that there was that deadline for the end of the year nationally, but we have not managed to reach that. We still have some miles to go. But really, what is your key takeaway?
Okay, so for me, once again, I want to say big thank you to you, Zainab, and NTV at large for inviting us to this session. Media actually reaches out to millions of people that personally at a campaign, at a grassroots campaign, I'm not able to reach. So I really want to appreciate that opportunity. Number 2, I wanted to say this. For all the stakeholders, let us join our hands together, the government, the religious institutions, the survivors of FGM, the main allies. We really need to join hands for us to be able to achieve zero FGM. Why compete when the goal is just to end FGM? The goal is one. So why should we compete against each other? Let us join our hands. Use these resources that we are using in parallel ways to ensure that we use for the best interest of women and girls. In Kenya alone, we are talking about over 4 million women and girls alive today living with the scars of FGM, which are unfortunately hidden. And for me, I always say, what if the scars were visible on the face? The conversation would be different. Last week, I lost this silver tooth. And because, when you are inserting the silver tooth, it's shaped. So I feel like there is something missing, and I couldn't walk out of the room. And at some point, I wanted to wear the mask, but I found it, and I was very happy walking out of the house. Why? If FGM happened to my lips was cut, still I would be feeling shame to go out of the house. But because it's done to a hidden genitalia, no one sees that
the scars are hidden, like you say.
Yes, the scars are hidden, and no one takes it seriously. And I want to urge all the stakeholders, please, let us deal with FGM as a sexual assault, as a gross violation against women and girls' human rights, as a sexual assault, as torture. Let us not call it a tradition or culture, because these are innocent girls, their dignity robbed of and their dreams shattered. And my last point is to say that all these survivors I've mentioned, it's just maybe 1% of them that are vocal like Sadia. Not all survivors are strong. And why are they not strong? Because of they are dealing with this mental health trauma and all that, and because we are further stigmatizing them. I want to urge all of us working towards ending FGM. The wearer of the shoe knows where it pinches the most. It is these survivors who understand how painful they are really, FGM really is, and what suffering they are hiding in silence. Let us engage them without further stigmatizing them, and let us ensure the practicality of these survivors protecting their own daughters. Today, Sadia saved her own 3 daughters. What if we have 1,000 network of survivors who have saved only one daughter? We would be talking about 1,000 girls free from FGM.
Right.
Let us empower the survivors. Let us give them the platform to raise their voices and support their initiatives. Let no one else speak on behalf of the survivors. Give them the voice, empower them, engage them.
All right. Thank you so much. And I think that's a fantastic place to end that conversation. I'm sure there's still much more we can have a discussion around. Hopefully we will continue to have this discussion until we come to a place where really we can say we have completely eradicated FGM amongst our communities, especially within those parts of the country where this is still quite prevalent. But thank you, Sadia Hussein, Executive Director, Brighter Society Initiative, and anti-FGM advocate, as well as an FGM survivor who really doesn't shy away from giving her, experience and her journey in this. She is a champion, and I believe, your voice gives voices to many, many people who don't have the courage to speak about this. Ustaz Abdullahi Haji Guda, who is the chair of the Council of Imams and Preachers from Tana River County, as well as Millicent Ondiek, Gender and Social Development Officer as well from Tana River. Thank you so much, gentlemen and ladies, for coming in this morning. I think this is a great place to wind up this conversation, but we must continue with the same. The hashtag is YourWorldNTV at NTV Kenya. You can also tweet me at Zainab Ismail as we wind up this conversation. But once again, it's all about the issue of what Colgate is doing, and children all around Kenya really rely on water from unsafe sources, and Colgate is asking you to help change this. Just a little water can make a big difference. Now, for every pack of Colgate you buy exclusively at Naivas, you help them build 30 water wells that will provide clean water for 120,000 Kenyans. And when a child has to help their family fetch water, there is no such tiring as a thing as a day off. Now you can help them change that. Colgate is asking all of you to help support the future of the country and our children, of course. And just like clean water, every little drop makes a difference. Now, for every pack of Colgate you buy at your nearest Naivas store, you are also helping to build a 30 water wells that will provide clean water to 120,000 Kenyans. You also make a larger impact and help them reach more Kenyans by donating via M-Pesa. And you can visit the Colgate Kenya Facebook page or their website at wellboring.colgate.com. That's the website for more information. Terms and conditions, of course, apply on that. Well, this is where we wind up. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a fantastic morning. We'll see you tomorrow as well in the morning as we see what else has been making headlines across the country. And of course, later, 7 p.m., 9 p.m., you can get all your news headlines of what's been happening across the country and beyond. My name is Zainab Ismail. Have yourself a good morning.